title of our talk is Micro, Meso and Macro-Pedagogy for Innovative Science Outreach.
Thank you, Veronica. Let me briefly introduce you to the context of our presentation. We believe that there is a significant need for science outreach initiatives due to a decline in numbers of students taking up sciences, most notably at second level education and higher education. There are numerous reports that point in the STEM or science, technology, engineering and mathematics disciplines that this is the case. Diverse outreach programs are available, and many of these are targeted at schools, teachers and/or students. However, we believe there is a strong need to align such initiatives with the curriculum and sound pedagogical practice. We posit that teachers and teacher educators are well placed to play a strategic role in science outreach efforts by considering micro, meso, and macro pedagogical innovations. So what are micro, meso, and macro pedagogical innovations? Micro pedagogy we present here as the application of effective lesson hooks and creative and engaging approaches to science teaching. Mesopedagogy we present as integrating outreach strategies into science lessons to build conscious science promotion into science teaching, specifically in second level education. Macro-pedagogy we view as outreach strategies to bring science out of the classroom and into public view, working in tandem with micro and macro pedagogic strategies to produce meaningful learning experiences for students in science toward greater engagement and a persistent and prolonged personal interest.
When we talk about mesopedagogy, we're referring to teaching as outreach. Outreach and the promotion of science and science careers is an inherent part of teaching science. However, teacher educators rarely make this explicit as a part of the pedagogy of teaching new science teachers. Teacher educators and science teachers can tap into extant networks of science outreach providers to engage in hybrid conversations to share a third space towards engaging students in science as an ordinary part of science teaching. Science teaching pedagogy, we believe, needs to be embedded with the principles of science outreach. When we talk about macro-pedagogy, we're referring to unexpected science. We believe that there's great pedagogical value in the unexpected, in both teaching and outreach. Informal science learning may not always be available to supplement formal science learning in small communities. So in 2011, we formed a guerrilla science pilot project. Based on the model of guerrilla gardening, we paired local artists with scientists to create public science art that is unavoidable, in-your-face science in the everyday environment. These pop-up science projects aim to take people by surprise, to create curiosity, and to pique interest. The two guerrilla science exhibits at the Galway Science and Technology Festival were Lachon, which involved a scientist who was studying Hostoria, which is a parasitic plant. And the scientist was paired with an artist who was a ceramicist, and they created these little ceramic discs that had images of the Hostoria on it, and they were attached to buildings and lampposts all around Galway and would entice participants into the Galway Science and Technology Festival based on the curiosity of these strange little creatures latched on to different buildings and lampposts. The second project that we had at the Galway Science and Technology Festival was called iRun. And it involved a performance artist who dressed up in a morph suit and would run around the campus, the University of Campus. And the running was tracked and projected onto a wall, and the participants would be able to observe the exercise route all around campus.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes about lesson hooks, which are an example of a micro-pedagogy. So a lesson hook is a short introductory pedagogical moment that captures what is interesting and engaging about the topic that you're about to teach. As you can see from the image on the slide, there are a lot of competing student interests. In our experience as initial teacher educators, we found often that lesson hooks were poor or uncreative. And as such, we engaged with student teachers to research, co-design, and co-create a series of lesson hooks and hook iBooks that are free to download worldwide. We swiftly realized from scholarship on interest theory that there was more to a hook, for example, than simply showing a short isolated video clip at the beginning of class. Situational interest needs to be triggered repeatedly to generate personal interest. So therefore, the hooks that we created, we embedded them strongly in the curriculum and we sculpted them with strategic questioning. Okay, now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a different example of a macro pedagogy, and this one is in formal education. So I'm going to talk to you about the development of a marine iBook. Now, outreach providers often have told us about the challenge of getting into formal education. It already has an overcrowded curriculum, and there is little room for additional subject matter. Second to this, and the topic of our book, interestingly, across Europe, there is a lack of ocean literacy in the curriculum. So in response to these two issues, we designed a thematic ebook called Harmful Algal Blooms. It was designed using Horizon 2020 funding and arose out of a project called Sea Change. Our aim was to infuse a greater marine component into science teaching and to generally increase ocean literacy, yet going through more so the formal education curriculum. So the secret to our success, in a way, was threefold. First of all, we involved as many stakeholders as possible. So we co-designed with teachers, with students, with scientists. We developed an interactive iBook. It includes interactive images, image galleries, pop-ups, videos, and so on. But perhaps more interestingly is the fact that we developed two separate tables of contents for the iBook. And I'll explain both of these to you now. So the first table of contents is a topical table of contents. And essentially, it allows for a scientific stroll through harmful algal blooms. The first chapter, an image of it is there on the screen, plankton. The book itself includes 5 topical chapters with cross-curricular sustainable development goals. And these can be used by science teachers to connect with non-science subjects, example, art and English, and vice versa. It also gives teachers of these non-science subjects an opportunity to connect with science. The second table of contents is a curricular table of contents. And this allows science teachers to teach the set syllabus the way they normally would. But instead of using whatever examples they would regularly use to teach plant cell and respiration, we provide them with a selection of marine science topics in the hope of increasing their students' ocean literacy, but not adding additional content or time to the teaching of the curriculum. In a sense, it's a clever integration of unexpected and marine science into a curriculum that doesn't have it without adding additional content. Some may call it outreach by stealth.
In conclusion, we believe that science teachers and science teacher educators have a lot to contribute to the promotion of science, but currently find themselves on the margins of diverse outreach activities. Subtle micro, meso, and macro pedagogical shifts may be a viable way to foster widespread personal interest in science without placing significant additional demands on classroom practitioners. And it's this alignment that is crucial. Science teacher educators may impart these pedagogical approaches to the next generation of science teachers through a focus on lesson hook design and science outreach theory as pedagogical practice and direct active involvement in broader outreach activities in society. Finally, lesson hooks and conscious outreach teaching approaches facilitated by new hybrid relationships between teachers and outreach practitioners are small steps toward a common goal of the advancement of science and Irish society. Thank you. We welcome questions and comments. Our contact details are on screen. Dr. Veronica Macaulay, veronica.macaulay@nuigalway.ie, Dr. Kevin Davison at nuigalway.ie, and myself, Dr. Paul Flynn, paul.flynn@nuigalway.ie.